The next general type of society we have is the what we so-called industrial society. So in the 18th century, Europe experienced a dramatic rise in technological invention, ushering in an era known as the Industrial Revolution. What made this period remarkable was the number of new inventions that influenced people's daily lives. Within a generation, tasks that had until this point required months of labor became achievable in a matter of days. Before the Industrial Revolution, work was largely person or animal based and relied on human workers or horses to power mills and drive pumps. So, before the Industrial Society or in the period of the pre-industrial society, the people were just using available resources in their surroundings, and they are just using this for them to achieve their works for a long period of time. But as this industrial revolution came, people learned to achieve this task in just a matter of days. And in 1782, James Watt and Matthew Boulton created a steam engine that could do the work of 12 horses by itself. So it became the formal start of these new inventions or technologies that arose during the time of the industrial society or the industrial revolution. So the steam power, or what you can see here in the first picture, began appearing everywhere. Instead of paying artisans or workers to painstakingly spin wool and weave it into cloth, people turned to textile mills that produced fabric quickly at a better price and often with better quality. So rather than planting and harvesting fields by hand, farmers were also able to purchase mechanical seeders, as you can see in the second picture, and threshing machines that caused agricultural productivity to soar. So products such as paper and glass also became available to the average person, and the quality and accessibility of education and healthcare soared. So gas lights also allowed increased visibility in the dark, and towns and cities developed a nightlife. So this had been showing a big transition of living from a traditional to a more modern one. One of the results of the increased productivity and technology was the rise of urban centers. So workers flocked to factories for jobs, and the populations of cities become increasingly diverse. So people started to move from rural to urban areas, and the new generation became less preoccupied with maintaining family land and traditions and more focused on acquiring wealth and achieving upward mobility for themselves and their families. So people learned how to find jobs and not just stay at home or do the traditional tasks they had before. People wanted their children and their children's children to continue to rise to the top, and as capitalism increased, so did social mobility. So people were moving everywhere in search for jobs and to look for greener pastures in life. It was during the 18th century and 19th centuries of the Industrial Revolution that sociology was also born. So life was changing quickly, and the long-established traditions of the agricultural eras did not apply to life in the larger cities. So it was during this time that power moved from the hands of the aristocracy and old money to business-savvy newcomers who amassed fortunes in their lifetimes. So as we can see in this industrial society, that the transition was very fast, right? And that the technology, if we are going to compare it with the pre-industrial societies, there is a big difference between the technologies they are using. The last general type of society we have is the post-industrial society, which is also known as information societies or digital societies, which are a recent development. So unlike industrial societies that are rooted in the production of material goods, information societies are based on the production of information and services. In other words, we can say that on the industrial societies, people were just focused on the production of tangible goods and products, or the ones that can be touched. Whereas in information societies, people relied on the production of information and services which are intangible. And in this type of society, digital technology had been the steam engine of information societies, and different computer moguls have been widely known, such as Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Since the economy of information societies is driven by knowledge and not material goods, power lies with those in charge of storing and distributing information. Members of post-industrial society are likely to be employed as sellers of services like software programmers or business consultants instead of producer of goods. So that is the main difference between the industrial and post-industrial. So in the industrial societies, people were just focused on the production of goods, and here people were selling their services. So social classes are divided by the access to education, since without technical skills, people in an information society lack means for success. And those are the type of societies we have. So as a summary, societies are classified according to their development and use of technology, and we have seen it on the transition from pre-industrial to industrial up to the post-industrial societies. For most of the human history, people lived in pre-industrial societies characterized by only limited technology and low production of goods. And then after the Industrial Revolution, many societies based their economies around mechanized labor, which leads to greater profits and a trend toward greater social mobility, or the movement of people from one place to another in search for greener pastures. At the turn of the new millennium, a new type of society emerged, and this is the post-industrial society or information society, which is built on digital technology and non-material goods. So now let's move on to the different functions of society. So here we have three: socialization, moralization, and economization, which are the main functions of a society. First, let's have socialization. Socialization is a process by which the individual is initiated or introduced to the various requirements of the social daily interaction or everyday life experiences. So the first function of the society is to make the people to be interacting with each other. And in the classic book, The Social Construction of Reality, a treatise in the sociology of knowledge, it had been argued that the reality of the social daily interaction is a pre-arranged reality. So meaning that we are learning the behaviors and the perpetuation of this behavior from our daily social engagements. So meaning that the society had been teaching us to select from different options, and as we can witness from our daily lives, we can see what choice can give us good results and which choices can give us um, not so good results. And this makes living a multiple choice. So socialization conditions the individual to take the proper choice for a particular society. In so doing, the judge in the process of decision and the appropriate options to choose from is removed from the individual. So that is the first function of the society. The next one is moralization. So society is an agency where the concept of acceptable actions is distinguished from the non-acceptable ones. It is in this very context where the society's norms and precepts are being imposed on the individual, and in this basis, society expects the individual to follow its imposed norms and precepts. So we can say that it is possible that the government may declare what is or what is not an acceptable behavior. Why? It is because the government of a certain society or a certain country is the one deciding whether a certain law should be passed and imposed or not. And this is why societies are different from each other. Some things that a certain law is immoral, some things that it is not. For example, abortion, death penalty, So there are some countries that are in favor for these laws, and there are some countries which are not, because some countries believes that it is not morally correct. And in this perspective, relativism is sometimes identified as the thesis that all points of view are equally valid. So when we say relativism, it is correct for some, it is wrong for the others. So it is equivalent to saying that all moralities are equally good, which implies that all beliefs or belief systems are equally true, or no culture is either inferior or superior, or that all practices are acceptable insofar as their civilization is concerned, that society must be freed from dogmatically authoritarian assertions about the truth and goodness, as mentioned in the book Philosophy and Social Hope. So, from this perspective, we can say that there is no one true culture, or there is no perfect culture, because it will depend upon how a civilization was developed, or what are the belief systems they have in their society. So, another example, while polygamy is acceptable in some societies, polygamy meaning that a person can marry more than one, others may opt to remain monogamous, or some societies decide that a person should only marry one person. Hence, in the protection of human rights, the protection and promotion of the dignity of human labor, the protection and the sanctity of human life, and inviolability of marriage, society, through its passive laws, limit the exercise of such relative rights. So, in the end, let me say that not all legal is moral, and not all moral is legal. And the last function of a society is economization. So society has certain basic needs or necessary conditions which must be satisfied if it is to survive. So society must provide for the satisfaction of its members' basic needs and their sense of safety and security. So a society must give its people everything that they need. So if they have limited resources, then they must allocate these resources properly to each and every individual, wherein no one should enjoy better, or someone may have privilege over the others. In economic sense, division of labor, allocation and mobilization of resources, production and distribution of its goods are all inherent functional prerequisites of society. So that is economization, and that is the function of society. And that is all about chapter 7, the types and functions of society. Thank you for listening.